Machiavelli once looked me in the eye and said, "Those who seek to deceive will never lack an audience." Has it ever happened to you that you see someone in a position of power and think, how the hell did they get there? Because let's be honest, we've all witnessed it. People who have no idea what they're doing, and yet there they are, making decisions, leading teams, giving interviews like they're geniuses. Meanwhile, truly brilliant, ethical, well-prepared people remain stuck in secondary roles, invisible, as if the system were designed to ignore them. But what if it's not a coincidence? What if there's something more? A twisted, yet effective logic. An unspoken rule that pushes the least qualified higher than those who actually understand things. And that's when I remembered Machiavelli. Yes, that Machiavelli. Not the cliché, not the caricature. The one who saw all of this long before we did. Once he told me something that stuck with me. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are. Many quote him, few understand him, and even fewer dare to see the world through his eyes. But today, we will. No academic disguises. Because what Machiavelli wrote in The Prince wasn't a guide on how to be cruel. It was a warning. A raw X-ray of power as it really is. Not as we wish it were. He understood, and told me coldly, almost painfully, that appearances often matter more than truth, that projecting confidence weighs more than being right, and that overthinking, paradoxically, might be the very thing that keeps you from leading. And that's how this strange phenomenon begins, one that still consumes us today, the loudest ones, the ones who oversimplify complex things, the ones who sell promises with no nuance. They're the ones who end up in power. And those who truly understand, they hesitate, they add nuance, they think before they speak. And in a world obsessed with instant certainty, those virtues aren't seen as strengths, they're seen as weaknesses. While the populist shouts, "I have the solution," the reflective thinker says, "This is more complicated than it looks." And who do the crowds follow? While the charismatic one sells certainty, the intelligent one offers doubts, and that, even if it's more honest, rarely convinces. That was Socrates' fate. Wise, uncomfortable, radical. He didn't bring promises. He brought questions. And for that, they silenced him, literally. Because in politics, many times it's not the one with the truth who wins. It's the one with the simpler narrative. And that's not just intuition. Science confirmed it years ago. A study published in the Journal of Management in 2017 found that intelligence is linked to leadership, but only up to a certain point. Specifically, up to an IQ of 120. Beyond that, the more intelligent someone is, the harder it is for them to connect, to influence, to inspire. Why? Because their thinking becomes too abstract, too complex, like they're speaking a language most people no longer understand. And then, clarity turns into isolation. Depth becomes weirdness. Complexity becomes suspicion. Being too intelligent can make you invisible, misunderstood, or even discarded. And as painful as it is, this is the truth. In many cases, people don't follow the one who's right. They follow the one who speaks with more conviction. And that pattern repeats itself, over and over again. The voice that dominates a conversation isn't always the wisest. It's the most confident, the one that doesn't hesitate, the one that speaks with strength, even when spouting nonsense. That's not a glitch in the system. It's part of the design. It even has a name, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Discovered in the 1990s, this cognitive bias reveals something disturbing. The less someone knows, the more they think they know. Meanwhile, true experts, they doubt. Not because they're unsure, but because they know how much they still don't know. That's why ignorance, aside from being bold, can also be persuasive. And sadly, it doesn't stop at theory. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who are overconfident are perceived as more competent leaders, even when they aren't in practice. Why? Because appearing confident gives the illusion of clarity, of authority, of, I know what I'm doing. And in a world where most people feel lost, the one who speaks with certainty, even if they're wrong, ends up being followed. Because the problem isn't just what we say, it's how we say it, and how others interpret it. And if that already sounds discouraging, wait. Because it's not just about perception. This escalates. It turns into real power. And no, it's not just theory. It's everywhere. Take General Custer, for example. Arrogant, reckless. He made disastrous decisions that cost lives. And yet, his soldiers admired him. Not because of what he actually did, but because of how he made it sound. In the world of tech, Adam Neumann, founder of WeWork, convinced thousands with his visionary speeches, even though his business model was a ticking time bomb. In Japan, Masayoshi Son, the billionaire behind SoftBank, lost over $70 billion in failed investments. And yet, he kept attracting investors, not because of his results, but because of his personality. In Russia, the oligarchs didn't rise through merit. They rose through connections, through charisma deployed at the right moment. And yes, it feels like there's no way out, but not all is lost, because there are places where the system was designed specifically to resist this. In Singapore, for instance, institutional mechanisms were created to make sure charisma alone couldn't beat technical competence. And that made a real difference, because when the environment is well structured, truth matters, and appearances alone aren't enough. Something Machiavelli once told me is becoming clearer every day. Power doesn't operate alone, it's built, it's fed. And when the system is poorly designed, the incompetent don't just survive, they multiply. They surround themselves with people even more mediocre than they are, out of fear, out of insecurity, because talent threatens them, and blind loyalty protects them. And that's when you start seeing what we've all seen before. Fragile leaders don't choose the best. They choose the ones who won't question them. And so a network of mediocrity forms, sustained by ego, a bubble of obedience and fear, where asking questions is frowned upon, and thinking differently becomes a risk. And the most unsettling part? This doesn't just happen because of corruption or ignorance. It also happens by design, but not by political design, by neurological design. Our brain is programmed to seek certainty when everything around us feels uncertain. And in those moments, we don't crave truth. We crave relief. We don't want complexity. We want someone to say, "Don't worry, I've got the answer." And that's where the incompetent shine. Not because of what they know, but because of how confident they look. While true experts hesitate, acknowledge complexity, admit what they don't know, the charlatan strides in, with a firm voice and a sharp suit, promising the impossible, and many follow. Machiavelli made it painfully clear to me. Most people mistake appearances for reality. And when crisis strikes, a pandemic, a war, an economic collapse, who does the majority follow? Not the one who says, "This is complicated, it will require sacrifice," but the one who promises, "Everything is under control." And so, Instead of seeking understanding, we seek comfort. Instead of nuance, we follow slogans. But not all is lost, because understanding how power works isn't surrendering to it. It's the first step to changing it. Machiavelli didn't write to justify darkness. He exposed it, so it wouldn't fool us, so it wouldn't feel normal. And yes, there are systems where truth matters, where competence has weight, where critical thinking isn't a disadvantage. And building those systems starts here, by thinking out loud, thinking together, thinking even when it's scary, especially when it's scary. So if you made it this far, thank you, not just for watching, but for thinking. And if you've seen these dynamics around you, if you've felt that truth got sacrificed for spectacle, tell me in the comments. And if this reflection stirred something in you, even just a little, share it. Not so this channel grows, but so thinking grows. Because in times of shouting, thinking quietly is already a form of resistance. And you exercised it today.